Sejahtera, Dajahal, Vanakkam, and a very good evening, everyone. As a nation aged 50 years, 8 months, 1 week, and 2 days old, well, counting from September 16, 1963, we should be proud of our country, Malaysia's achievements. Although it is still a long way to be a mature democratic country, we have established quite a stable nation. Everyone agrees that democracy gives the ultimate authority to the people to elect their own representatives into the parliament, to fight for their own causes, and also to fight for the betterment of the country. Realize it or not, Malaysia has been having 13 general elections so far. With the changing voters' demographics in the last 13 general election, which saw more young voters, I strongly believe that it is time for the young generation to be heard. Therefore today, since we are joined by two young politicians whom I can call Abang and Kakak instead of Pakcik and Makcik, I would like to talk about the importance of youth political participation and what our aspirations are. Ladies and gentlemen, firstly, the importance of youth political participation. In any country, youth are the most important asset to the nation. With their energy and fresh ideas, they are capable in bringing major reforms in societies. Therefore, without any doubt, the youth or young generation must be encouraged to participate in politics. But do not get me wrong, when I say politics, it is not only confined to political party line. It refers to discussions about everyday life's issues. Anyone can join politics through any platform, be it NGOs, civil society groups, or individuals. I am very delighted to see that more and more young generation are being represented in the Malaysian politics nowadays. I believe many youth, especially mahasiswa or university students, are engaged with issues in the society, but they are often restricted by the universities. Datuk Saifuddin Abdullah, former Deputy Minister for Higher Education, also complains how educational forums are banned by the universities. However, I salute the mahasiswa for their passion to make changes. Despite facing difficulties with the universities, such as being taken disciplinary actions or suspension, they are very resilient in achieving higher objectives to reform the system. I remember joining a flash mob rally at KL Central when I was back in Malaysia during summer break. As usual, the special branch officers were present and took photos of us. As a typical JPA scholar, I was a bit scared. I was a bit scared about what would happen to my future. Later on, a group of mahasiswa marching confidently towards me. That was really inspirational to me. And I decided to join them, and we marched all around KL Central chanting for the release of Internal Security Act detainees, which was supposed to be free after its abolition. Not only that, I am sure we still remember how they became the backbone of free education movement to abolish PTPTN and other noble causes that they are fighting for. My point is, despite facing difficulties from the universities and authorities, mahasiswa still fight for what is right. Imagine if mahasiswa can enjoy political freedom. We will have higher political participation rate among the youth, which both sides, the government and opposition, want. With their influence and passion, they can mobilize the other mahasiswa and younger generation easily and instantly to join them and contribute to the nation-building process. This is the asset that we need to utilize. This is the asset that we need to cultivate to reach their full potentials. Dear my fellow colleagues, secondly, what are youth aspirations? As we all know, the social harmony in our homeland is in jeopardy lately. Racist and bigotry statements are made publicly almost every day without shame. I think the two groups that are always under attack are two C's. First C, Chinese. Second C, Christians. Although I am two M's, First M, Malay. Second M, Muslim. And also, I am overseas. I feel very hostile about what has been happening on the two Cs. Racist bigots may wonder why would I be so sympathetic towards these two Cs who are planning to take over the country from the two Ms. Well, to the racist bigots, I am sorry because I'm not racist like you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are always told by our politicians that we must always try to keep our established social harmony in the multiracial and multireligious country. On the contrary, I do not understand at the same time there are groups which scare us with the incident of racial riot between Malay Chinese communities on May 13, 1969. If the two M's do not stop the conspiracy by the two C's. The way these people describe, and obviously tokok tambah with additional flavor to sensationalize the issue, made some get deceived with this political game. I think there is a big problem here. The younger generation who was born and bred in Malaysia cannot understand what sort of conspiracy that these certain older generation are talking about. As Malaysians, we mix and mingle with each other and try to understand different cultures and religions in order to build strong rapport between ourselves. We respect each other and celebrate our unique diversity. When the older generation, especially Perkasa, talks about such conspiracy, we feel puzzled. Puzzled with a stupid narrative, puzzled because we do not see ourselves voting on racial line. I myself do not believe in absolute meritocracy because affirmative action is a mechanism to help the poor. Race-based affirmative policy should be changed to needs-based affirmative policy because eventually we will target the right group of people and not the rich ones just because they belong to Malay Bumiputra category. How fair is that? What I am trying to say here is that people from our generation cannot relate to race-based politics anymore. We want to elect leaders who hear our voices and concerns, regardless of their race and religion. We know that our country was built upon social contract by our ancestors. But we are sick. We are sick of those who manipulate history to justify racist statements and policies which only benefit selected few. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, Malaysian politics really needs a major reform by including the younger generation. The youth and young generation have so much potential that needs to be utilized. We can shape the future of our country with our critical and fresh ideas. Youths are very critical about what is happening around us. We are not yes men and say correct to every single thing what our superiors say. We want to be heard and to be included in this democratic process. Debates are our battlefield. Arguments are our weapon. Facts are our bullets. And eventually, ideas are our victory. Terima kasih.
Now we would like to direct the Q&A session to the floor. So for anyone who is interested, please raise out your hand and I will call your name if you are appointed. Alright, we will start now. Anyone?
Hi, I'm Sophia. I'm from across the causeway. As a person who's both minority in terms of ethnicity and gender, what have been the most significant points of that being both a challenge and both a benefit in your experience? I mean, you've already mentioned some parts of how being a woman has its benefits, but are there other instances where that has really been challenging for you, being both double minority?
I think because I'm a woman and I'm made speaker, so that created a lot of excitement among the young people. And that's good publicity for me, it's a plus point. But I think the challenge would be, if you want to encourage young women to be in politics, when they get married and they eventually have children, they are restricted in a way in terms of the things that they can do. So for example, Nik has young kids, I have young kids, my girl is 3 and the second one is 1. But I can't go to Sabah and Sarawak to campaign like Nik. I just can't because I somehow I'm the mother, I feel like I need to be with my kids when they sleep. So this is the first time I've been away, leaving behind my husband and the kids. So there's always a conflict within me. So I think that's the limitation, I feel, for being a woman in politics, is that you can't really go far geographically simply because you really need to be around your kids. And that's a conscious decision I made to be there for my children. And so, yes, as a woman, you do get a lot of attention in because of the gender. Nowadays, you know, if you're the first mayor, first woman mayor, you're the first woman commissioner, things like that, people want to cover that. But with that also, you have the challenges at home. So really, if you're single and you're in politics, that's really, really a plus point. Because single woman can do 5 times, 10 times what I can do as a married woman. But thankfully, there's space for married women to still be involved in politics, and you really need to find a party that recognizes that. I'm so glad that I have a lot of young parliamentarian friends who are young parents. So people like Zairil K. Johari, Wong Chen, Rafizi Ramli. So everybody understands, and especially after they become fathers. You know, you have Stephen Sim and Penang. After they become fathers, they say, you know, hats off to all these women MPs. They just don't, the men cannot, they don't know how to even imagine what we go through. So in the beginning, the first few months, right, at night, you have to nurse your kid, you have to make sure they're okay, they wake up every 2 hours, and then in the morning you go to work, and then you come home and you just continue working. But for the men, you can just shut off at night and sleep. So that's all I can think about for now. I hope that answers your question. Yeah, okay.
Okay, I was like one speaker indirectly advise the ladies out there, never get married if you want to join.
No, that's not what I said.
Alright, any questions?
Hi, my name is Lindsay. Thank you so much for sharing your personal experiences in your political career. I have a question regarding to the hudud issue, because now that PAS wants to implement hudud, then how would you see that this is going to affect your relationship with DAP and PKR? And because, or rather share with us, what do you foresee would happen next?
Well, I'm from PKR, so I'm not from PAS. But I think our perspective, first is that, you know, as Muslims, we accept that the Sharia is there, and hudud is part of the Sharia, and Sharia is part of Islam. So that, for me, is very clear. However, when you want to talk about implementation, there's a whole issue. It's a very complex issue, and you know, there are issues of the constitution. There's issues of implementation. So, you know, for us, I mean, I'll be speaking on behalf of PKR, for example. Our issue has always been focusing on what we can do as a Pakatan coalition. And you know, there's no use about talking about specific things that are still very, what do you call that, speculative. If we cannot address the issue of independent judiciary, the issue of fair the issue of basic justice, is not there, for example, and equality of the law. You cannot have certain people immune from the law, for example, if you want to have a real fair system in place. So those sort of things, for example, are our priorities. And I mean, even in Islam, there are the issue of the higher objectives of the Sharia, the Maqasid Sharia. That about the protection of the faith, protection of property, protection of what do you call that, the various basic elements of justice. Those things need to be addressed rather than just going into very specific punitive aspects of the Sharia. So, and as far as we are concerned, we have always stated Pakatan's position is that we respect the PAS vision of wanting to implement it, but as that it has to be agreed on a consensual basis between the three parties. So that is our position, but and we've always said that that this is for us it's being played up for political reasons. UMNO is daring. It's about you're you're daring people with religion. You're playing politics with religion. So UMNO is saying that Brunei is doing it. Why can't you do it? So you should not walk into that trap. That is our position. Because if you're this is a really serious matter. So but yeah, I mean because of the Brunei element as well, it's putting pressure in Malaysia, and UMNO is playing it up. But UMNO is also not serious. In Terengganu, they're not doing it as well because the enactment is already there for them to implement in Terengganu if they wanted to implement it just as it is also in Kelantan. But yes, as I said, it's part and parcel of a political game, which is unfortunate because I don't think it should be treated in that way. I mean, it should be dealt with by the scholars, and look into it in a serious manner, and let's not my fear personally as a Muslim is that if we do things wrongly and suddenly it reflects badly on Islam, people do not think about UMNO or PAS, people will think about Islam in general. So that is my concern if we rush into it just for the sake of politics.
I'll share from the DAP point of view. DAP has made it very clear that we agreed to be in the coalition based on the common policy framework which all three parties signed in 2009. And Hudud is not in there. We uphold the constitution. Okay. So my personal take on Hudud is never going to go away. The argument will come back every 2 years or even every year. You will get this issue being revisited again and again. There are 3 challenges to the implementation of Hudud, I believe. This is my personal view. The first one is PAS cannot do it by themselves. For them to actually pass this in Parliament, you need the support of UMNO. So it's not enough for you to just engage PAS, you need to engage UMNO and find out what UMNO really thinks about Hudud. So it goes hand in hand. You cannot just blame PAS because it can never be passed without the support of UMNO. Secondly, we have not considered the views of the MPs from Sabah and Sarawak. Sabah and Sarawak really think totally differently of politics and how politics should be. In Sabah and Sarawak, they are very liberal, they are very open, and they believe in everybody's right to practice their own religion. Yeah, so we cannot underestimate the role of the MPs from Sabah and Sarawak. Even if they are from UMNO, I think they will probably have their own views on Hudud. Third, nobody has ever spoken to the royal family, the sultans, because the sultans are the head of Islam in Malaysia. Nobody has asked them what does the sultan or what do they think about Hudud. So I think it's a bit premature now. Everybody is very scared about this Hudud thing being tabled, but I think unless they go through all these 3 challenges, Hudud will not become a reality in Parliament. Yeah. So this is just to create enough publicity so that you may see a crack within the Pakatan coalition. Yeah.
I mean, we should look at the model of say, Turkey or Tunisia, where they are all Islamic, or either Islamic parties or Islamic-inspired parties. Even the Muslim Brotherhood under Morsi was not talking about implementation of the Sharia when they had that short time in power. In Turkey, the AK Party is very explicit that they are a faith-inspired party, but they are not religious-inspired. In Tunisia, An-Nahda under Rashid Ghannouchi, which is one of the main Islamic thinkers around, even they said when they won power that the focus is on restoring democracy and justice, and getting the economy growing and all that, and they put their priorities very right. And I think Malaysia, we in fact, I mean, in many years past, learned from that lesson, and we should continue to stick to that, especially when we have a very complex environment in Malaysia.
You can answer that quickly. I'm not from PAS, but I think I know a bit, the dynamics in PAS because I have many, friends who are joining PAS. Even in PAS, there are 2 factions. One faction is supporting, the conservative one, as people say. The conservatives are actually supporting and actually advocating for implementing Hudud, while the professionals, they're not saying that it's not part of Islam. It is part of Islam, and I think every Muslim knows it's part of Islam, but it's not the priority as YB Nik Nazmi mentioned just now. And even if you refer to the great scholars, great Muslim thinkers nowadays like Yusuf Qaradawi, Tariq Ramadan, or Anas Al-Tikriti, they also mention, what's most important is to restore democracy and to have social justice, to ensure that everyone actually have the opportunity to have a fair, fair go in the countries they are living in. So we have to set our priorities right. What's the point of implementing hudud? You see in Saudi Arabia how the royal families are squandering the wealth of the nation, but at the same time, the ordinary citizens are being punished if they are found to be guilty. So this is not something that we want to achieve. This is against the Maqasid Sharia, as mentioned by YB Nik Nazmi just now as well. So we have to set our priorities right. So what we want to achieve by implementing hudud, it's not merely just about punishing people, it's about, restoring democracy and social justice to everyone. So that's what I think. So even in past, there are people who support hudud and who do not support the implementation of hudud right now.
Alright, next question. Thank you. Alright, I received a few questions from Twitter. So, sorry,
Just a quick one,
you
sorry.
first.
My name is Wong here. I'm actually here to visit my son. He's in ANU. So I happen to his parents' place. Okay, from the Chinese point of view, this is the advice to Pakistans. Okay, if you really cannot stop us from tabling this hudud law in Parliament, I think the roads to Putrajaya for Pakistan is game over. Okay, this is the view from Chinese society. As I said, it's game over for Pakistan. I think second thing is why in 2013, before elections, PAS was campaigning for welfare states. Okay, after the election today, they are talking about hudud laws. So the non-Muslim, especially the Chinese and the Indians, feel cheated. Okay, I think this is a message that I'm going to convey to both TAP and Keadilan, because since PAS is in your coalitions. And then last thing is, as of today, why Anwar Ibrahim didn't voice out his view on hudud laws? He still, as of today, he still keep quiet. People want to listen to his view. He's the leader of Pakistan. Okay, this is my
The first 1 and 2 points we will convey to PAS for you. Number 3, Nik Nazmi
game
can
over
answer.
for Pakistan, I can tell you. Okay?
No, we agree, and in fact we have conveyed to them as well.
Game over.
The only thing
Too
is
sad
that
to sit.
yes, I agree. The only thing is that PAS is not here today for them to answer. So, and I agree. I mean, in fact, we have made our position very clear. Pakatan as well. And even with Anwar Ibrahim, he has actually stated repeatedly. But yeah, whether people want to play, it's up to the media whether they want to report it or not. But he has said it repeatedly on record. You can go to his blog. Even in 2011, I think when some of the Sharia issues cropped up, he said very clearly that we respect PAS's goal. We recognize that the hudud or Sharia enactment has been passed in Kelantan and Terengganu prior to the formation of Pakatan. You cannot erase history. It has been passed. The law is still there. UMNO is also in Terengganu. UMNO does not have the courage, if they are so against or for. They are also living in limbo, and so is it in Kelantan, partly because of the federal constitution. Okay, so what happened was that what happened again is because of Brunei. So this issue cropped up. So then UMNO started playing up and saying that what do you call that? Previously, you said that the federal constitution was barring you from implementing it. Now we will allow you to table a private members bill, and we can form. Then I think Muhyiddin said, let's form a technical committee and all those things. So they are just playing up. So again, they are not serious. It's a political power play. But Anwar has said very clearly that again, he said it again similar to what we said. That sort of answer, because I think as per if you ask most Muslims, I mean that is the sort of answer that Muslims would give, i.e. that hudud, i.e. is part of Sharia, and Sharia is part of Islam, but the issue of implementation, that's a very complicated issue, and we should focus on the more immediate issues of justice and all that. And as far as Pakatan is concerned, there is no consensus on it, and we will stick to a Pakatan policy when we come to power. And I know I said that, but of course this issue also, because we are talking to PAS, the different elements in PAS, trying to get them to rein in, it's a bit more complicated. And I think it was easier when Tok Guru Nik Aziz was the Menteri Besar Kelantan. He's not there anymore, so that makes it a bit challenging as well, because of his moral authority within PAS. That was a strength. So yeah, I mean we agree that it's a contentious issue, unfortunately, for Pakatan.
Thank you. Any more questions from the floor? Yeah, Bataris.
Assalamualaikum, salam sejahtera. My name is Harith Rasiza. I'm the medical practitioner and the current president of IKRAM Australia, which is a youth wing of IKRAM, Pertuhan IKRAM Malaysia, and a faith-based NGO focusing on education, voluntary work, and advocacy. I actually have 4 questions. 2 for Nik, 2 for Hanayo. My first question is the recent kerfuffle in the PKR elections. Isn't that a sign of the inability of PKR to actually govern the country? Your response. The second question to Nik Nazmi is, how true is this saying? PR cannot be trusted, moreover tested to govern the federal government, because they can't even create their own shadow cabinet as compared to the Australian opposition. So that's my 2 questions for you, Nik Nazmi, and my 2 questions for YB Hannah. Recently in the MASA Summit, which is the Malaysian Australian Summit for Students, organised by MASCA, which is the umbrella body of students in Malaysia, which happened in Melbourne. YBKJ was there, and he advocated for the broadening of this centrist path to fight the racial and religious extremism in Malaysia. How far away is the AP from this centrist path? Having a majority of their members being Chinese, which to many seems to defeat their very own tagline of Malaysia in Malaysia. And the second question is, what is BAP's stance? But if you can't speak on BAP's behalf, probably your personal stance on the growing Islamization, considering all their topologies, especially the faith motivated politicians and political parties.
Well, okay. As for the mess of the keadilan party elections, I think first of all you have to put it in perspective. I.e., we are the only party that does one member, one vote. The only party in Malaysia. If you join other parties, it's a delegate-based system. UMNO has, after we did our one member, one vote system in 2010, UMNO did implement an expanded delegate system. So out of 3 million members, 100,000 delegates elect who becomes the president of UMNO, which is better than the previous position where out of 3 million members, 2,000 people determines who becomes the president of UMNO. And why we did the one member, one vote system in 2010 for keadilan is because partly we wanted to introduce greater democracy. Even in parties in the, Australia and the UK, there are big issues in the implementation of the system. And secondly, we wanted to fight money politics, because previously where there was no money to fight about, in keadilan, because we had no control over any resources. But now when there are big issues at stake, you can become councillors, you can become aduns, you can become MPs, possibly become state excos or even ministers. If you win the federal government, then there are bigger what you call that, prizes to be bandied around. So if we have an expanded one member, one vote system, it will be more, you can't, it has to be very expensive if you really want to buy the election. So that's why we did the one member, one vote system, and we had issues in 2010, if you remember, during the Zaid Ibrahim era, and we also had issues this time around. But I think the most important thing is that we are open about it, we are honest about it. That's why we have, including my own division, we are having re-elections where there are problems. I think that's a stark contrast to the EC. And also the fact that the issue is about finding the perfect system to elect party leaders. I think we still haven't figured it out yet. So I think the party is going to